and I am the founder and executive director of Perennial, a nonprofit here in St. Louis, and I bike a lot. I wasn't a big cyclist. I still don't really consider myself a cyclist, but I moved to St. Louis like 7 years ago, and I got a bike to get around campus at WashU. When I moved off campus, I would take it to get to class in the mornings, and that was sort of the extent of my cycling. And when I moved to South City after I graduated, I didn't bike that much, but then a year after graduating, my friend decided that she wanted me to go on a bike trip with her from St. Louis to Portland, Oregon. So I got a touring bike and decided I was going to train to do this ride. I didn't really train. I started riding my bike a little bit to work. At the time, I was working 3 different jobs. I was working in the Loop. I was working in South City, kind of all over the place. And every now and then, I would bike to try to get in shape for this ride. But then I left on the ride and rode from St. Louis to Portland, Oregon. So I went with 2 friends, and none of us we could identify as cyclists, but we just sort of trained into the ride. We rode 30 miles a day at first, and then by the end we were doing 80 to 100 miles a day. And when I got back from that trip, it was just eye-opening to what you can do on a bicycle. And on the trip, of course, I was if I ever want to go anywhere again, I'm going to take a bike. If I have a family, we're riding bikes on vacations. But getting back to the city, it was sort of like a shock. I hadn't really biked that so much around the city before then, but I really wanted to continue biking after being on a bike for 2 months straight. So I started biking a lot and just commute. I started working at a restaurant downtown and would bike from South City to downtown for mostly all of my shifts. And yeah, it's just been, I think, after being on the road for that really long period of time and only having a bike to get all the way across the country, it really changed the way I see bikes and how they can be used as really really sustainable and really empowering transportation. So I try to bike as much as I can. And the only downfall to my job is that I run an organization that collects a lot of salvage materials, so I also have a truck that I have to use. I do have a bicycle trailer that I try to haul stuff with or carry things around, but a lot of times I teach classes out somewhere and I have to bring a lot of materials, so I need to use a car. But when I'm not going to be hauling stuff, I definitely ride my bike.